Hello everybody and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host Joe Rimmer, joined today by Paul Gorst. How are we, Paul?
Yeah, all good. Busy few days as ever, but quite a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in some ways I'm kind of glad that we've got quite a lot to talk about because until the end of that game I didn't feel like we were going to talk about a great deal.
Yeah, we wouldn't know what we're going to talk about for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, thanks Mo. Theo, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, good weekend.
Yeah, nice weekend off, watching Mo Salah have a little tantrum.
Yeah, day drinking in the cinema.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got to make the most of it, don't you? Rare weekend when it's all off.
Both of us were day drinking on Saturday. Maybe that's what Liverpool do to you.
Maybe that's what Liverpool are doing.
Yeah,
I'm glad you both had a nice little bevy though.
Yeah. I'm sure you did on London on Friday night.
Yeah, actually, yeah. It was I had a pint with a first team player's parents, which was quite interesting. Yeah. Good chat.
Yeah, cool. Well, won't reveal who.
No. Never reveal your source.
No, fair enough. When you're on the source.
Yeah.
Yeah, podcast brought to you in conjunction with NordVPN. Big thank you to our sponsors, Nord. To get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link will also get you 4 months extra free on a 2-year plan, and there's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link's in the podcast description box. A big thank you to Nord. Their sponsorship really helps us make these pods happen, so thank you to them. And if you're listening, we're on YouTube. We're live on YouTube, so thank you to all our commenters. The comments on Friday was great. I feel like it's really good in the comments at the moment. So if you've got a question, thought, you want to chat, throw your thoughts in the comments and we'll try and get round to them. Give us a thumbs up, press the bell, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or elsewhere, give us a rating. As we always say, give us 5 stars, give us 4, and if you want to give us 3 and under, go and listen to another pod and don't come back. No, you can come back, but just don't say it. Right. Let's crack on. There's only one place to start because Liverpool 2, West Ham 2, but more important than that, of course, at the end of the game, Jurgen Klopp and Mo Salah had a little bit of an exchange on the touchline, and personally I didn't really think it was all too bad. It was just one of those things that sometimes happens in football, but then I think it's fair to say that things really took a turn, didn't they, later on in the mix zone when you were stood right there as Mo walked through. So take us through it from your perspective. I mean, you were right there. So
I was. It was me who actually asked him. He walked past him, and I was on the end first. Yeah. He was stood talking to Moise for a couple of seconds. And
1 second, can you just explain for anyone who doesn't know what the mix zone is?
Yeah.
Some people.
So the mix zone is, I mean, every ground in the country has got one. Certainly in the Premier League, and it's just the designated area for journalists to ask the players if they fancy a couple of minutes of the time and talk about the game. More often than not, They tend not to come through at Anfield. They've got like a little kind of secret walkway that they tend to give us all the dummy. But so Salah came through. So he was talking to Moise at the entrance for a couple of minutes, and Moise had his hand on his shoulder, and it all looked nice and friendly and polite. And then Salah came through, and I just said to him out of habit, as we do, Mo, any chance of 2 minutes, and he gets asked it every game, and it's become a bit of a running joke between those who ask him and Salah himself. He kind of laughs and normally just says not today and walks on. And I think he stopped twice in his Liverpool career. Once was when I think he said, when I score 40 goals, I'll stop, in his first season, and he did. He kept to that promise. And then the other one was, I'll stop when we win the Champions League, and he did in Madrid. He said he would stop kind of jokingly when we win 4 trophies a couple of years ago, and that was just after he was leaving Wembley as an FA Cup winner. So it's not something he makes a habit of, but he still gets asked and he still says no, and he walks on, and it's a nice polite declining, and it's all, all done in good spirits. But I said to Mo 2 minutes, and he carried on walking, and he said, if I speak today there will be fire, and James Pearce was next to me, and James said, what, fire? And he said, yeah, of course. And then he carried on walking, and then everyone kind of looks around at each other and says, like, what, did he just say that? Did he really say that? And then a little bit of a conflab goes on, and everyone agrees that they can tweet it out, I guess. And yeah, he put the cat amongst the pigeons, didn't he? I must say he kind of did say it with a little bit of a smile on his face. He wasn't angry or frustrated. It was more just, I think he knows, doesn't he, that what he says carries weight, and it was very pointed that he said it. He could easily have just said no, not today, like he normally does. And what was also interesting was Virgil van Dijk, who was normally a home banker, you get a chance to chat to Virgil after every game, but this time he said, not today, guys, not today. And then he turned back and he said, you just only want to talk about Arne Slot anyway, and that was that. Look, I think a little bit of a storm in a teacup, really. I think it's more just the fact that the profile of the player and the manager, because we don't really see this type of stuff at Liverpool, do we? We think Henderson had a bit of a disagreement with Klopp at Old Trafford 2019. That got swiftly brushed under the carpet, but this one was even a little bit more high profile because of Salah, because he hasn't been playing well, because he hasn't been starting. And yeah, I mean, it's all led to speculation about Salah's future in terms of, well, that'll be that now for Salah. I don't quite think it is. I'm sure we'll come on to our own thoughts, but I think it's maybe blown a little bit out of proportion, but what Salah said was certainly pouring petrol onto the fire, even if he didn't stop and give us anything beyond that one line.
Well, before we continue, some breaking news on the podcast. David has sounded the horn. David Ornstein's just tweeted actually saying Liverpool expect Mo Salah to stay, and I'm planning for him for at least another campaign. He's given no indication he wants out. Contract to be addressed in due course. Saudi viewers, Salah intends to remain at Liverpool next season. So obviously we know David Ornstein, really well connected, great journalist. Tweeting that now, I mean, I don't necessarily think we thought he would leave, but we thought it could start the conversation, and there has.
Yeah, I mean, I did think that there was a decision for Liverpool's new structure to make. Obviously, Michael Edwards, the CEO of football at FSG, who is essentially the new Mike Gordon, so his say will be final, I guess. Richard Hughes, the new sporting director, replacing Schmacker, Ward, Edwards, and Arne Slot, who will be replacing Klopp. So it's a new kind of triangle of power, I guess, isn't it? And between them, they have to establish if keeping Salah or selling him is the decision to make this summer, because they can't really let him go on a free. So, you know, by David Ornstein's tweet there, whilst we've been recording, it suggests that Liverpool are keen to tie him down to a new contract. And look, why wouldn't Arne Slot want to work with a player as good as Mo Salah? I'd suggest that it's the best player he's ever worked with when he comes in, and if you're banking on him next season being happy and part of the pack, then you know he's going to be Liverpool's main goal threat. So, that doesn't really surprise me, that. But the big question now is, can they agree to a contract renewal, I guess?
I think it doesn't surprise me, but I think it's obviously good that there's been a story like that come out, because it does maybe try and stop the speculation from raging over the last few games of the season. Before I continue, thanks to Pete B, by the way, in the comments for flagging that to me, because I hadn't seen that tweet, and I saw you.
Are you sure it's actual Ornstein?
It's one of those documents. It's actually Ornstein. Before I continue, I thought, by the way, Gorsty, your piece on the Salah situation from being at West Ham yesterday was excellent. I'll throw it in the comments. If you listen, it's well worth a read. All about that Salah. I mean, Theo, whatever you think of it, it's not a good look from Salah. As Gorsty says, he chooses his words carefully. I always think about never give up. You know, like when he walked into Anfield in 2019 against Barcelona wearing that T-shirt, he wasn't playing that day. It was like, again, Salah, without saying anything there, even just showing those three words on his T-shirt, kind of like sounded this signal that the Liverpool were intent on overturning this deficit, and I kind of think it spread belief throughout the ground. You know, the pictures on Sky before, and so he is someone who really always chooses his words carefully. His agent always chooses his words carefully. You know, we know that when Rami tweets, people listen, and I think there's a reason why he doesn't tweet too often, and he says when he does say things, you know, we sort of sit up and take notice. So for all that, it wasn't a good look, was it? I mean, we've seen Klopp have exchanges on the touchline with Henderson, with Milner, but those players were professional enough not to let it continue, and I do think from Salah's point of view it wasn't a good look to go and do that.
It wasn't the best look, but what he says, it looks a lot more sinister written down than once you've seen the video. Like as Gorsty said, when you're actually there, he's a bit light-hearted, he's fine, and he knows whatever he says, it is going to cause fire, isn't it? It's going to make stories all over.
It's the new if I speak to them, it was the Mourinho line, if I speak, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
It's the new one of them, isn't it?
So like, he's played it down. He's jesting about it, isn't he? He's still in good spirits. He's not sulking there.
Yeah,
And you can understand entirely why he's annoyed at the time. Like Liverpool, they're not playing particularly well. They're being wasteful in front of goal again, and you've left it until the last 10, 15 minutes to bring on your main goal scorer. It doesn't matter how badly he is playing, he's still going to have that faith in his ability to bring him on with 30 minutes to go and he will get you the winner. And you could say it did fire him up a little bit, like that run he goes on where, the pass to Nunes was poor, but Elliott hits the bar. That's the most life we've seen from Salah in a game for weeks.
But that's a worry though, isn't it? I thought that myself at the time, like the break he made. You're right, I thought, wow, that's the Salah that we know.
It was very much prove a point here.
Yeah, and he got the pass wrong. You're right, but you're right. But that's isn't that a worry? That's the most we've seen.
It is, but you see all compilations from this year and how good he was the first half of the season. Like he scored some great goals, but then also I saw one on Twitter this morning, and the through balls he's doing, but it was a compilation of the misses. So every single miss from like when Nunes puts it over from 6 yards or Trent hits the bar against Arsenal. He's obviously still a very, very, very good player. And we know how Liverpool are all data-driven. They'll know if he's dropping off properly now and this is starting natural decline, or if this is just, he's had an injury, he's not got the rhythm, and it takes time to get back to his best. He's going to be frustrated because he's not playing well, because Liverpool, a month ago, were in title talk and they've just fallen away completely, and it was in their hands and they've let it go. So you can understand his frustration, and he's always had that in his locker, hasn't he? He's always let his emotions show at times like that. I think it's also quite telling. When it was going wrong for him with Egypt and he was getting all the criticism there, he spoke on social media, his agent spoke on social media. They chose their words carefully, but it was a very pointed statement they put out there. The fact that they've not said anything here, they know it's part of the sport, isn't it? Disagreements happen. 9 times out of 10 it's behind closed doors. 1 time it's out there, everyone makes a meal out of it. And when Liverpool's falling apart on the pitch and Klopp's going, it's not going well, it just seems even bigger a story than it would have been if Liverpool were top of the league. It's just still in the teacup, like you've both said here. I don't think it's going to have any issue with his future at all. If Salah is still scoring plenty of goals, we're not talking about his future. If he's not playing well, but that doesn't happen, maybe you have that slight conversation, but it's nothing to do with him getting frustrated with the manager or not.
Yeah, I think all the other instances that we've seen, the ones that I've referenced, Milner, Henderson, and the of course the Salah Mane one.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw someone tweet on Saturday saying we need a Firmino in the mix zone to sort of give it the smirk, and I think the thing about all of them, I think at the time Liverpool were playing pretty well, so everyone sort of shrugged and said, "Oh, it happens. They're all very intense." But the only thing I would say, I thought Salah was out of order on Saturday. To say that the actual exchange I had no issue with, but I think now for Klopp, the first question he's going to get asked in the next press conference, unless anything happens between now and then, is, are things all right with Salah? Have you made up with Salah? What's happened? What's been said to Salah? What did you think of what Salah said? And I think it just lumps a bit more pressure on a man who looks a little bit in the wars right now.
Yeah, he does. He looks like he's ready for the end of it all, doesn't he? The end of the season, and he can walk away and get his his big send off. The worry for me with Salah was there's been this kind of expectation that the Saudi offers are still there, and nearly a year into the crazy kind of spinning the football world on its head with the contracts and the money they've spent and taking loads of Europe's top stars. I genuinely wonder how much appetite is still there from both sides, really. Henderson hated it, didn't he? To be pointed, he came back at the first chance.
Benzema seems to want to do the same.
Yeah, I'm sure there are several players out there who it hasn't quite gone to plan for. I think it was a medical report. His partner came out and said that it wasn't the way of life that they expected, and
Mahrez' missus obviously.
Mahrez, yeah. So, our top players still willing to go to play football in Saudi Arabia, where you can earn a king's ransom, of course, but you're playing in front of League 2 level crowds, not on the telly. No one really is interested in it. And also, as well, from the other end, is there still a commitment from these Saudi clubs to continue committing hundreds of millions of pounds to a project that doesn't really seem to be making any footprint.
If they want to kickstart it, though, there's no better player really to try and say, no, we still mean business. We don't want it to go like that.
That's true. But I just wonder whether, has that interest just been expected rather than, it's known that it's there. So that was a worry for me, because if it isn't there and Liverpool do decide they have to sell, then you're automatically going from what might be a 100 million offer to pushing 70 at most for a player who's 32 and just got a 12 months on his contract. And then you're talking about who's actually going to pay it. You know, PSG, maybe if they lose Mbappe, they'd probably be the only club at the table.
I was having a chat with a mate in the kids' pool at the David Lloyd. Not just me and him. Our kids
Before it opens.
But about, like, what would you accept for him now? What would you accept for Mo Salah if he was to leave? Which obviously now it looks like he's not going to. But I just wonder, from both of your points of view, what would you accept?
Well, if it's a Saudi Arabian club, then 100 million. But after that, teams will try their luck and try and get him for 50, 60, which...
I think if there's anyone in Europe, you just couldn't sanction that for that money. Theo?
It's such a hard one to call, because he's been poor for 4 months now, isn't he? 3 months. And granted,
is it that long?
Maybe it just feels like that.
He was injured, wasn't he? He come off the bench against Brentford.
He was all right against Brentford.
Mid-February.
Missed a few, but he
so
was
that's
all right. Okay, 2 months.
8 weeks, yeah.
So yeah, 2 months he's not been at his best, and normally we see him get out of a rut. And normally when he gets injured, it's not for that long. So if you're judging him by his normal standards before that, and just assuming he's going to be back to his best, then you want an 100 million plus. But then if it's natural decline, if his contract's going to be nearing that end, then you have to play a smart game there, don't you? It gets to the point where if Saudi interest is not there, not playing big fees, you're probably better off just keeping him and letting go on a free. Just what he offers next year, if he is back to a decent level, is going to save you more money, make you more in terms of titles, Champions League, than whatever you have to spend on a replacement, getting him up to speed under a new manager.
Yeah. And then maybe you've got the wriggle room of discussing a new contract if it's going well as well. I mean, he's already the highest paid player of all time at Liverpool, so you wonder how much of an actual increase he can get. But there are, a big earner like Thiago's going off the wage bill in the summer. There's 200 grand a week. Joel Matip, 150, 140, whatever that is.
And he's been saving Liverpool a good 50k a week at the moment, because he's not getting those goals and assists.
But I actually think this talk of him being in decline is overplayed a little bit. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. He's played, like you mentioned that piece there, Joe. I think it was 840 minutes of 804 minutes of 2,400 minutes that Liverpool have played since, I think it was the game against Newcastle on New Year's Day, which was his last kind of real performance, wasn't it, before he went to the AFCON. Then he gets the hamstring injury and comes back into the team, is in and out because he doesn't look 100%. So, I think this idea that he's a busted flush is being overplayed a little bit. I just think he's looking like the team, mirroring it in terms of being a bit tired, a bit keen for the end of the season now.
I think back to what happened to Curtis Jones last year. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but when they were in the Champions League against Real Madrid, Jones wasn't making matchday squads because he'd had that muscle injury. He was taking his time to come back, and Klopp came out and said, well, he can't train for a full week. We can't get him to the level we need him to be for him to start. And then when they're out of Europe, they were giving him a few full weeks in training. We saw how good he was for the end of that season, going into this season. And for the majority of this year, he's been pretty good. Maybe Salah just needs that extra bit of recovery time because he's that bit older. And because they've been going for 4 trophies, they haven't been able to give it to him. And when you're in Europa League as well, it complicates it that little bit more because the turnaround's that much shorter it feels that much shorter between Thursday and Sunday when you've got to travel back as well. So maybe it is just age taking a little bit of toll. But now they're out of Europe. They've got a full week off this week, don't they? For the first time in ages. Yeah. Maybe it'll be a bit fresher next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of points made in the comments that I'd just like to address. I think the first one, someone just said, he's upset because of what happened with Egypt, and I think sometimes you forget that these guys are human beings. They're not just FIFA players who've got statistics, and if they don't reach them, there are loads of reasons why they might underperform, and I think one of them for Salah, the weight of expectations every time he goes away with Egypt is incredible. Yeah,
especially after the way he missed out 2 years ago on penalties to Mane,
and then lost on penalties to Senegal again to not qualify for the World Cup.
And they just about made it through the knockout stages, didn't he? And then bowed out at the first time of asking, I think. So that would have been a hugely disappointing way for that to end for him.
Yeah, so there's that, and then. Just going on what you were saying, Theo, there, someone said, why do you think all the strikers are sort of misfiring at the moment? And I look at it and just think, because for some reason they have got in their heads and I've said this on every pod that I've been on the last few weeks, that since that United game, I feel like all of them are doubting themselves, and you can see it. You can see it in the way that they play. You can see it in the way they sort of, every single time they have a chance, there's always an extra touch. There's always
the way they get the equaliser from Saturday.
Yeah.
Both goals, yeah.
Yeah, they're always looking for an extra touch, or even to lay it off to someone. No one seems to be so single-minded at the moment. And that, to be fair, we go back to Nunes. That's why I usually like Nunes, because even when he's missing, he seems to be quite single-minded. And yeah, he gets things wrong, but I think they need to believe in themselves. And we've not really seen Salah at Liverpool many times, and I think you're absolutely right. I think this idea that he's a busted flush, I think the idea that Liverpool, I've seen a few people saying they have big clear outs, and I tweeted after the game on Saturday saying I think they've made good progress this season, and I think the whole club needs to remember that.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, "What progress?" I was like, "Are we joking? Like they finished 5th last year. They've climbed back up to 3rd. They've won a trophy.
So that's pretty much guaranteed now, isn't it? You need 1 point to finish above Villa.
Yeah.
You're gonna get
It's
that.
because everything's being couched in this send-off for Klopp, isn't it? Which
And
you can understand it, but if he was staying on next season, people would be saying, "Oh yeah, Liverpool taking a big step forward there."
or if this was Arne Slot's first season, everyone would be buzzing, wouldn't they? Be saying like, "Look at us back in the title race." I think there's a lot to be confident about, but I think for the players, someone needs to remind them of that, and they need to remember just how good they are. And I think with Salah, it's the first time I've really seen him looking like he doubts himself a bit, and I think that's flowed into these frustrations on the touchline, him being dropped. I mean, how many times? Maybe a handful of times in his Liverpool career he's been properly dropped for poor form. Maybe not even that. But there aren't many times we've seen him drop out the team, and that on Saturday was definitely like, you weren't good enough in the derby, you dropped. Everyone knew it going in. He knew that, and I think that was the frustration. And I think Carragher tweeted, didn't he, saying that the only reason why a manager would do that would be maybe took a bit too long to get ready to prepare to come on the pitch, and perhaps that was the case. And there was just, look, I mean, you guys never do, but everyone falls out with the boss every now and again. And I think there was probably just a bit of back and forth with that, wasn't there? So
from all the replays, it looks like Salah's got his bottom lip out, doesn't want to properly embrace Klopp, doesn't want to hug.
Yeah,
which you can understand completely.
Yeah.
Nunes playing peacemaker was the funniest thing about it all.
But then there's the footage of them coming off as well, where Salah's all chatty with Moyes, and then they completely blank each other when Klopp's going onto the pitch.
Yeah.
They just need a bit of time apart, don't they, to cool down? And they've got that.
They've worked together, Klopp and Salah, haven't they, for the best 7 years? And I think they're both big personalities. Klopp is an intense guy. I'm pretty sure he's great when things are going well. I'm pretty sure he's. But I'm sure he loses his temper. I'm sure he demands a lot. I'm sure, and some people sounds a bit weird. Some people don't like getting hugged all the time. They don't like the intensity, and some of the players obviously respond to that. And I never felt like Salah had that with Klopp. They never looked particularly close. They always looked sort of like, they know they get the best out of each other. But the only thing I would say is I hope Salah has the respect for Klopp that he deserves, because whenever Salah thinks. They've both given each other the best years of their careers, haven't they? They've achieved so many big highs together.
That's why I think we're over-analysing it. Why is that even a question? They've won everything together. Of course, there's going to be that respect. They've just had one minor tiff that's been blown out of proportion.
True. So anyway, would you sell him? The one thing I want to say as well, he is in the leadership group, Salah, and don't get me wrong, the other people that we've spoken about, Milner had that bust up, so the Henderson were both captain and vice captain, but I would say for someone in the leadership group, I felt like Salah this season, I've talked about this on pods, has stepped up a little bit with his leadership. It feels a bit more like someone who's more involved in the squad, not in the periphery, and not at times I think playing for himself.
He's really good with the younger players as well.
I feel like he's better with I feel like we've seen that a lot this year, but in the last couple of months again that hasn't been a great thing, and that didn't look great on Saturday. So for someone in the leadership group, I don't think it was a great look. But
didn't we have it when Milner got subbed off, and then whoever came on for him scored straight away? So then he was laughing about it.
West Ham. That was exactly
that was West Ham.
They had a big argument
behind closed doors game. I think he came off for Shaqiri or something, was it? Or Jones maybe?
I think it was Jones.
And then they were like in stitches laughing about it. Look, it's one of them. I think what would be great from Salah here, for someone that we just keep saying, chooses his words carefully, I'd love to see like an Instagram post or something like that, just saying just take a picture of him and Klopp.
Working harder or something.
He's definitely going to do that, isn't he? The next training session will be them two pictured next to each other.
I think something like that would just calm everyone down a bit and just say, come on, guys, it was just a bit of a thing at the match. One comment to say, everyone, sorry, we won't see any of you in Dublin, maybe next time, yeah. We'll say, that's my biggest disappointment this season. Just, I still thought that's good. They should maybe stop work on building that bridge. We won't need it anymore. But yeah.
Should build one anyway? With the to Dublin?
Yeah, I mean, the ferries are pretty expensive, aren't they? So a bridge would be nice.
The Irish just going to be cheering on Alonso.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, the Irish can all get behind Shabby, can't they? Talking about different managers, Arne Slot feels like it's creeping closer. Obviously, since we did this podcast on Friday night, they agreed compensation for him. Gorsty, just a matter of time now, it seems, before they confirm him, or maybe they. Do you think they will confirm him before, or do you think it might be like an end of the season?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to judge, really. Not too sure. But
for him, probably maybe it would help if they just confirmed it so that everyone knew.
Yeah.
They didn't get asked about it in every press conference.
Yeah.
What's the Dutch table like at the moment? Like they're not going to win the league.
They're about 12 points behind, but they're well ahead of third. So
like their season's done. They've won the cup. Liverpool's is pretty much done now. When you know you're in the top four, they could just announce it now, going we're in that place, and then you focus on the Klopp send off. Yeah,
Liverpool had an initial offer, didn't they, around about 7.7 million rejected, and once that happens, you're pretty confident that they are going to get their man, aren't they? You're not going to walk away for an extra couple of million or whatever. And yeah, they finally reached an agreement. I think it's 11 million euros, which maybe works out to just under 10 million. It's the most expensive managerial buyout in Dutch football history. He's possibly just outside the top 5 of all time in European football, and yeah, it's a big statement, really, isn't it? Liverpool moving on, the new kind of triangle of power, as you say, with Edwards and Hughes and now Slot, and it's all knitting together quite nicely, and it's going to be a really interesting summer, and then everything going forward. We're going to be analysing everything, aren't we, to the nth degree, and it's I mean, I think supporters would love Klopp to stay forever and get behind them forever and ever, but I'm quietly optimistic over what comes next now. Maybe some tweaks here or there, little change in style, a new voice at the top table on a Friday, a different way of recruiting maybe. We'll see. But yeah, it looks now like it's going through the motions and just a formality.
Yeah, I thought you made a good point there, and I'd written it down in the things to talk about was a fresh voice, and I feel like right now, I think Liverpool as a club will benefit from a fresh voice. Whether he's as good as Klopp as a manager, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly, I feel like players, supporters, just all around the club might benefit from a fresh voice.
Yeah, like Liverpool have had a very, very successful spell under Klopp, and you all wanted him to sign that new contract a couple of years ago and it go on forever, like Gorsty said. But when it feels almost a little bit stale now, it's like, how much further can he take? He's not going to be here for the full journey for these younger players coming through. He's just got to make sure that the club's in a better state than when he took over, and he's certainly done that. He's got new players in, so the squad's in a good place and it's not on decline. He's got the youngsters through, so they're in a good place as well to actually make an impact on the first team squad. It does feel like the right time. And when Liverpool have dropped off in the last few weeks, you suddenly see all these conversations going, well, he could have gone last year, he could have gone 2 years ago. When was been the right time for him to leave? Has he almost overstayed his welcome? But he always has this at his previous clubs where he reaches massive heights and then it teeters out a little bit. Like with Mainz, he got relegated. With Dortmund, he was in the relegation zone, managed to rescue it to get them into Europe. But where he'd been in the Champions League final a couple of years before that, it's not the same heights. So for him to be leaving when Liverpool are back in the Champions League, they are in the right direction. It certainly is a good time for them to get that fresh voice there. And you look at Liverpool, for a number of years now, you can accuse them of maybe being a bit too predictable at times in terms of the style of play. And you know when they're going to turn up and you know when they're not going to turn up, at these last few weeks when they're struggling for goals. And it seems the touchline, they don't quite have the answers to turn it around. That's why when Liverpool have these sluggish spells, they go on for a while. As Gorsty's mentioned on these podcasts for a couple of times now, 2 years of conceding the first goal and not being able to find a solution. Like, they've managed to keep them right in contention to win trophies, to get in the Champions League, but it does need that new voice to just give a bit of energy to the players again, to give it to the fan base again. It gives you that new excitement, and it's not that same stress of going with City and Arsenal to the final day, going, we have to be absolutely perfect to get them over the line and win the title, because that's the only thing that's going to do it, as Arsenal finding out now. When you bring in that new perspective, maybe there's something else there that can give you that massive boost and make a difference in a title race, in the contention for Champions League winnings and all this sort of stuff. It's an exciting time for Liverpool to see what a new manager can actually do with it, because we've also said, when was the last time they actually hired someone from a position of strength?
Yeah, I've seen someone just slot his trash in the comments. But look, I mean, put it this way: who else is there? I can understand people's concerns around he's not a high-profile name, but I don't necessarily think there are any high-profile names out there right now. I actually think in management, you know, you look at, other than Pep and Carlo Ancelotti and obviously Klopp, who are the sort of managers that are these sort of big personalities? Well, Arsenal's manager had never been a manager before. He'd been assistant, you know, and has done a pretty good job, all things considered. And you got Barcelona's manager is Xavi. You know, I don't necessarily think that there are these huge names that Liverpool could have gone and got. I think they were always going to be getting someone with potential to improve, and I think I understand why they're going for Slot, even if people are a little bit underwhelmed. I don't necessarily think there's anyone else out there.
Yeah, well, his communication skills are really good by all accounts. You know, he speaks really good English. He's apparently really good with the media, and his playing style is what most closely resembles Klopp. And I don't think Liverpool want too much of a departure from that, really, in terms of it being full-blooded and, you know, passionate, emotional, and that is what Liverpool fans have become used to. And so if they completely change the style and started trying to become a little bit more sterile, and okay, I do think there's an argument to be made that Liverpool need a bit more control at times.
Yeah.
But if it went too far the other way and it started becoming a bit monotonous and a bit, you know, what's the word? Just Liverpool, Anfield feeds, doesn't it, on that sort of...
Klopp was the perfect manager.
Yeah, that's that high-octane style, and Liverpool, you know, don't want to be deviating from it too much, and that was certainly something that we were told with the data-led approach. So this is what the numbers have crunched, and look, he's won domestic titles in his country. He was head of Eredivisie title.
European finals.
European final.
The Conference League, or
still in there, wasn't he? You know, only beaten by Mourinho's Roman, and Mourinho, we know when he gets to a final, you know what he spoils it, doesn't he? And likes to do what he does and make sure that he's the one coming away with the winner's medal, and fair play to him. That's what you have to do in finals. But I think losing that final is not. I think I said it on Friday. It's not indicative of a poor manager. I think getting there in the first place, it shows you that he knows what to do in certain situations. And yeah, it's just going to be really interesting now to see how they move forward and what kind of tweaks they make to the squad, and how they build on what has been, you know, aside from the last month. It's been a terrible April, but aside from that, it's been really encouraging few months, hasn't it?
Yeah. We just need to look at the other big teams in the Premier League who have hired managers in the last few years. Like, if you're getting a Ten Hag, if you're getting Pochettino, Potter, Ranić, Solskjaer, it's all underwhelming, isn't it?
I can't remember when's the last time someone appointed someone that you
Ancelotti for Everton.
But
Simeone Inzaghi was possibly the only one, but he doesn't speak English, and you can't just dismiss that as a non-factor, because particularly at Liverpool, where, you know, that first press conference, everywhere it's going to be poured over, isn't it, and analysed and compared. Let's be honest, Klopp had all them sound bites in his first press conference, and everyone was impressed with it when they seen it, whether they were there in person or watching online or whatever. So you can't just dismiss that, and, you know, that is why I think one of the key things in Slot's favour is he's apparently really good at that side of things.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I went away and just watched a few clips of his Feyenoord team, but there's not, unless you watch full games, you can't really take too much from clips. But I watched a few clips of his press conferences just to get an idea of what type of communicator he was, and he does seem like quite a confident fellow, like quite
bit of life about
him, quite jokey, but sort of can turn it on to be quite serious. He does seem like a really good communicator, and I you know, I think for the players and for the supporters, a fresh voice like that, but one that's confident in himself, and one that backs himself. I said in the last pod, I watched that team talk he did with his players after they'd beaten Ajax on their run to the title, and it was the sort of thing that I'm pretty sure if you went to watch someone give a presentation and they gave that sort of presentation, you'd be like, okay, you can get behind this guy. So I thought that was encouraging, and I think for Liverpool that can go a long way, especially when we know Liverpool supporters hang on everything their manager says, and when they've had bad communicators like Hodgson, I mean, it all fell apart quite quickly, and not that his tactics or his style was any good, but
like people kind of laugh at Rodgers, but he came in with that similar thing, didn't he? And when he spoke in his early days, everyone listened and thought he was charismatic and got his messages across really well. And there's more to being a Liverpool manager than just being at the cutting edge of the tactical trends of whatever they are at European football at any given time. You've got to be a statesman more, just as much as you have a tactician, and I think sometimes that is overlooked. In certain elements.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think they do need to evolve the style a little bit. I don't think it's any coincidence that Liverpool did their best when they calmed down a little bit in 2020, didn't they? When they won the title, I felt like they became a bit more controllers than the
season they won the Champions League was very different, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like they've gone
17-18 when they just blitzed everyone.
That was just Klopp's football at his most high octane. They conceded, but they would, they could score a lot of goals. It was chaos. I felt like this season they've kind of gone back to that a little bit to maybe try and find themselves again. But we've seen them lose control at the end of the season. But I think now the style needs to evolve a little bit more to more controlling. I think Arsenal have done that really well. I think they've become better controllers, and that has picked them up more points.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how you do that though. Do you recruit a specialist defensive midfielder? I'm not too sure.
Just a tactical, stylistic thing that the manager has to work on in training.
I'll be interested to see what they do. Do they keep the inverted fullback? Is Trent a right back, or
he
is
plays
he
an
in
inverted
midfield?
fullback, doesn't he? At Feyenoord, so right.
So that's still someone who's more suited to it than who's played it a while, knows it better than Liverpool just learning on the job with players who hadn't played it before. It still feels a bit more comfortable than stumbling into it, going, oh, this is doing okay, how can we make it work for the long term and still concede goals? You still got Konate looking lost when he's having to cover it right back and then run backwards. Trent not knowing if he has to be in midfield, if he should go wide, if he should drop to centre back. It just feels they'll have a bit more control over it.
One more thing on Slot before we move on and just have a very quick discussion about the game. I don't necessarily feel like everyone wants us to get in deep about the game, but what would you say his first priority is, at Liverpool? Not necessarily the first thing he's going to do, but the first priority that needs addressing at this club.
I mean, the big one is the 3 contracts, isn't it? But
that won't be his responsibility.
That won't be his say, will it, majorly? I imagine that will be Hughes and obviously Edwards at the top of the chain. So I don't know, really. Maybe get Darwin Núñez firing, however that works on the training ground. Difficult task, I'd imagine.
Núñez, you can really.
He'll be playing catch up with Darwin though, because he'll be at Copa America.
There's a player there though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Just needs some ice in his veins at certain times. Yeah. But how they go about doing that is obviously why they are paid the big bucks. But that for me would probably be the first one, because he's a major money signing for Liverpool, and at the moment what you're seeing is probably not good enough, in all honesty.
What do you think, Theo?
First one is just convince the squad, convince the fan base. When you're doing your first press conference, convince everyone, yes, I am a Liverpool manager, and that playing squad, so they're not suspicious of you. They go, yep, you're Jurgen Klopp's replacement. Yeah. We're fully bought into this now. We're ready to go. He has to win everyone over really quickly, just because it has been 9 years of one of Liverpool's greatest ever managers. It's a very hard act to follow, and if he can win those battles early, then you can look forward with excitement, ready to push on, rather than waiting until August, September, like you were with Brendan Rodgers. There's always that suspicion there. Liverpool started the season slowly, but if you get everyone on board right from day one, you're in a good place.
Yeah, needs to get the Echo on board, first things first.
Yeah. Needs to come on the Blood Red pod. I go along with what you're saying, Theo. The one thing I think he needs to do, especially after this ends the season, is just get the players believing in themselves again, convince them that this has been a decent season, a lot of progress, and get them to stop feeling sorry for themselves. Because I feel like the problem with this last 4 weeks, and now the problem with this end of the season, however, even if they win the last 3 games, I still think there's an element that they will feel sorry for themselves. I think they don't necessarily look like they're enjoying their football.
To get 84 points, that's a brilliant season.
I say they've only done it like 3-4 other times in the Premier League.
And he needs to remind them of that, and he needs to remind them just how good they are. And I feel like with Klopp, everyone knows he's leaving, and there's, it's like any job, isn't it? You put your notice in, you're going to work that 2 weeks or the month. It's not going to be as intense as it. And I feel like the intensity's dropped. I feel like the confidence has dropped, and I feel like he needs to walk in. I think you're absolutely right. He needs to get everyone on side straight away. The biggest masterstroke I ever thought Klopp had at Liverpool was that first line of, we need to turn from doubters to believers, because he just had everyone. It was the perfect message for everyone at that time, and I almost think that they need to do it again. They need to stop being doubters and they need to start believers. But everyone's glasses of Carabao need to be half full now, because it frustrates me that at the end of the season everything's poor, everything's rip it all up and start again. There has been so many positives. The cup final was one of the greatest cup finals I've ever been to. It was brilliant, and we shouldn't forget about that. And people need to remember how good this season's been and how good it is to support this football club. So
it'd feel better if Arsenal weren't in the equation. If you're 84 points, quite a bit off City win the league.
Yeah.
You're used to City win the league. That's inevitable. But if Arsenal win the league, it feels like a massive missed opportunity. Yeah. And just because there's that extra team in the mix, it's like, well, how much ground do we have to make up here? I think that's just complicated it, because for all those years, it was just the two teams.
Yeah.
And now you're not only having to keep the pace under a new manager, you've got someone else to contend with. And then you're still looking over your shoulder going, can Chelsea sort themselves out? Can United sort themselves out? Spurs, another season under Postecoglou. And then you've got Villa. What do they do under Unai Emery in the long run? You're just treading water, looking where do Liverpool go next.
Yeah. But what I'd also say is, to kind of flip that, is FSG have moved everything about, haven't they, in terms of bringing Edwards in to replace Gordon, and then the sporting director is coming in, and then the manager's coming in, or head coach as the job title may be. And David Woodfine's coming back in as the assistant to Hughes, and Mark Birchall is coming in to work with the chief scout and the head of recruitment. So they've got all these moving parts, and they have to give this new team the tools it needs to be a success. They can't start undercutting it by not providing what's needed, really. The Champions League money is going to be back in the coffers at some stage, isn't it? I think it's, Liverpool have all but confirmed it now with the results across the weekend.
That is pretty much confirmed.
Yeah.
I think Spurs, Liverpool have to lose all their games. Spurs have to win those, and there'd be like a crazy goal difference shift. So
that's 26 goals or something like that. So we know that is going to be back on the agenda again, which is always the first check mark for the owners, isn't it? So they need to deliver as much as the people they've employed.
Yeah, I think, and they've shown that they've been prepared to do it. If they're going to buy Caicedo for 100 million, then they need to go out and back the new manager in the same way, and back Edwards and back Hughes, and show them that they are, they're as good as their word, aren't they? So, think that will be interesting. Before we finish off with a chat about the game, loads of great comments coming in. Loads of people talking about putting Trent into midfield. First priority is improving our first half of games. I think that's absolutely
100%.
100%. Playing more consistently through 90 minutes rather than hope to capitalise on opposition getting tired. I think it's absolutely it. Liverpool just need to be a bit more cerebral in the way they play. We need to the ball quickly and finish our chances off. Yeah, absolutely. And then some people talking about two-man pivot. Great comments coming in. If you are watching live, give us a like. There's only a couple of thumbs up there. Give us a few more thumbs up, and keep your comments coming in. Slow starts weekend once again. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the slowest of starts because they played all right for a while, Gorsty, but they concede first. It's also predictable. 16th
time this season they've conceded the first goal, which is remarkable when you think this is a team who theoretically were going for the title up until Wednesday night. Just needs to change. I don't know how you go about it. I'm not, a coach or a manager to be able to point a finger on it that way. But this sort of pre-match huddle that Van Dijk's introduced, what's he saying in that? I'm sure every Sunday league game before it starts, keep it tight, boys. Keep it 0-0, and Liverpool are doing the exact opposite.
Just when they do concede first, he's coming out going, still 0-0, boys.
Yeah. Liverpool need to be jolted into performing, don't they? And it's a really alarming trend, and you can sort of count on one hand the amount of games that Liverpool have played well across 90 minutes. They tend to be doing a little bit of a United thing where they have a good 15 minutes and that's enough to win games. And that ultimately that's what's cost them, because they conceded first against Palace and never looked like getting back into it, and is the one result that you will look back on at the end of the season and think that was the one that cost them.
Yeah, absolutely. Theo.
Yeah.
Sorry, you look like you were going to say something. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think my worry is that they do control games at times, and they controlled that. You know, it was sort of a slow start. Then they got into it and seemed to be controlling it. But my worry is that the goals that they concede are so predictable now. You know at West Ham, you knew at Everton in the week what the type of game that they were going to try and play, and Liverpool let Everton play the game they wanted to play. West Ham, you know that they're going to want set pieces. You know that they're going to want crosses into the box, and they just didn't seem switched on. The first goal they conceded, several players, I think Cody Gakpo is one of them, just aren't switched on to the moment, and you think like they need to be performing at a much higher level than that and really switched on. So I thought that was pretty poor. And yeah, some of the players just quite scruffy, and I think they just need to settle down. Not everything needs to be attack. I'd like to see them kill games, kill the pace of games a little bit more. And manage the right part of games.
McAllister is the perfect player to do all that. He's just not being asked to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't get a chance to do it, I guess. But
yeah, but I thought everything, the way the game developed on Saturday, was just so ridiculously predictable. West Ham score first, Liverpool have a good go, get back into it, a couple of scruffy goals. West Ham were going to have a couple of chances before the end, and deep down, I thought probably concede. If Liverpool don't get a third, they'll draw the game. Yeah. They didn't get a third, they drew the game. And again, there's a couple of opportunities that you look at and go, like Gravenberch when he blazed over the bar. There were chances there to turn the screw. And look, I was listening to I can't remember if it was Neil or John off the Anfield Wrap. Other podcasts are available after the game on Saturday, and it might have been Neil talking about they're not killers, and I think that's right. They just don't have the way Man City and Arsenal are able to take games away from opponents, and Liverpool just haven't done that enough this season. When's the last time they really won? The Chelsea game, the Newcastle game, but even then Newcastle always win.
Newcastle's still a bit of a wild, yeah.
That was the phase when they just kept conceding from set pieces.
Chelsea game was probably the only game I can remember this season where Liverpool have really taken a game away from their opponents. Otherwise, it's always been close, and I think
ultimately that's drained them, hasn't it?
Yeah, it must be hard physically and emotionally to play those types of games all the time.
That's when we see the stats as well. Liverpool have had the most shots by far in the top 5 leagues this season, most big chances created, and they're still miles off scoring goals compared to City and Arsenal. Yeah. They're just wasteful, and then you see the doubt starts to come in. You can see the sloppy goal, and it's the energy having to come back time and time again. Yeah. I actually thought that they're a bit better against West Ham. Like they did for that first half, have control of the ball. They were creating half chances, and then they just got done by a sloppy goal, and it's, here we go again. We're going to have to do it all over again. Like Elliott had a couple of chances in that first half, didn't he? Like there's the penalty that wasn't given.
Diaz hit the post.
Yeah. Like it's not the end of the world, and it's a side that hasn't played together before in terms of starting a game. And when the season's petering out, you don't want to over-analysing it too much. You just take the positives out of it. Like I thought it was another step in the right direction from Gravenberch, for example. Yeah, he had an encouraging performance. But yeah, it's just the same mistakes that we've been seeing over a season now. They're still there. Yeah. And that probably doesn't help with the back 4-5. It's been chopped and changed week in, week out. And while we can say, we were all taking Konate out, would have all put Quanza in there, but you don't know what your clear first choice 5 is. Yeah. You've got players who haven't been playing all season long. It takes time to get up to speed. So.
Yeah, I saw Andrew Beasley tweet as well. I mean, the other thing I think people forget about is the amount of injuries Liverpool have had. Yeah, and look, I think spit roasted penguin, our friend, in the comments has said that Arsenal are more compact than us, and City control possession better than us. Absolutely agree with that. And our midfielders running much more, and that causes injuries and fatigue. And I think it's right. I mean, Liverpool have suffered. They've been unlucky at times, and I think, but the injuries that they've suffered, I think, have taken their toll.
What's Feyenoord's injury record like?
I don't know, but I think Kornmeyer is leaving, isn't he, this summer?
And I don't actually think that's been confirmed, has it? But you'd imagine he would be, given he was brought in by Klopp. And
was it Athletic that had the one, didn't they?
That was Andreas Schlumberger is leaving, isn't he?
Yeah, not Kornmeyer. Sorry, I stand corrected. But I do think that's a department that Liverpool should look at this summer and just see, is it the style of football that they're playing?
Well, there's talk of him bringing in Peters, isn't there, as head of performance. Yeah. that is an element to be looked at. Okay, I used to just think it was almost just bad luck, and it was kind of the trade-off that you had to have for Liverpool to play the way they played. But no, at some point you've probably got to take a look at it and think, can we relent here? But again, it goes back to how much effort they're putting into every game. When if they start better or they're able to kill teams off quicker, then they don't have to put that kind of effort into it. And that ultimately has a snowball effect, doesn't it, for players?
Again, I go back to the title winning season. They didn't seem to suffer as many injuries. And maybe again, it's just a lucky thing. Maybe they got lucky that season. They haven't been so lucky. But since the following campaign, when obviously they had the injuries to the centre halves, I think Liverpool just have a terrible time with injuries. And whether they're not buying the right players, Jota, as much as I like him, I just think can't stay fit. He plays 2-3 games, then he's out the side, and you can't bank a campaign on players like that. So they either have to get the right players or get the right performance people in and find the right style that stops this happening. But I think they've massively taken a toll as well. Look, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Doing our person of the week, NordVPN person
God,
of
thanks
the
for
week.
reminding me. I should remember these things going in. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I know.
Theo had a suggestion, didn't you?
Go on.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm either giving it Mo because he's saving Chartbeat, or I'm giving it Gorsty because he asked him the question to save Chartbeat.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, was that your suggestion? Do you know what I'm going to give it to? I'm going to give it to Arne Slot, who I think he's had a good week, hasn't he? He's just
solid week, yeah.
Come out of nowhere,
yeah,
and basically got himself the Liverpool job. I think
won the cup,
good.
then beat Go Ahead Eagles on Thursday.
Yeah.
Back-to-back wins.
Go ahead, Arne. I think I'm going to give it to Arne.
You don't really want to give it to any Liverpool player this week, put it that way.
Not really.
Up the Slotters.
So the NordVPN person of the week is Arne Slot.
First of many.
First of many, I hope. There you go, Arne. You've already got one in the bag. So yeah, a good week for Arne. We'll be back on Friday to discuss to look ahead to the weekend's game.
Tottenham.
Tottenham. Thank you for
Tottenham
me there.
And hopefully the confirmed new Liverpool manager.
Confirmed new Liverpool manager, and to talk any more fallout to Salah. I'm pretty sure there's more to come from this story yet. Thank you so much for all the comments. Loads and loads coming in. Give us a like. I can only see 2 likes there. Maybe I'm wrong. I can only see 2 likes. There's
you were told this when we finished last week, though. You refresh that and that'll go up.
Maybe when I refresh it.
They love us, really.
Yeah, subscribe, press the bell, give us stars, do all the nice things, and we'll be back on Friday to see you then. Ta-ra.